Hello and welcome to 15 Minute Gamer. This is a review for This Is the Police. This is a game that appeared on Steam at the beginning of August. It's currently $13.99 of your great British pounds. It's developed by a company called Weappy Studios and published by Nordic Games. I've heard of Nordic Games before, but not Weappy Studios. And it's basically a strategy adventure game. Set under the premise of being a corrupt cop, and you have 180 days to make enough money to retire. That's a basic premise of it. It's a lot more complicated than that, but to put it basically, that's it. There is a storyline to it. It's told via like a comic book style, as you can see playing in the background here. So it's frame after frame and lots of words going on as well. I'm gonna have to say I skipped most of the comic style. I found them really boring and long-winded, and I was just like, I don't really care. I think it would have been better if it was me presented a little bit quicker. I know moving cutscenes are expensive, but I would like seeing a bit more movement towards them. However, you can skip them, entirely at your own option. You can skip sentences or you can skip the whole thing. However, if you do skip and there's the decision to be made, bearing in mind it doesn't tell you what decision you're making. So I'll just say, do you agree or not? And you're like, what? I skipped. It's not like something like Mass Effect that'll have the last sentence on, or Telltale game, and you're like, alright, okay, yes, I remember what decision I'm making. This is basically, if you skip it, you skip it. There's no if, buts, or maybes about it. And that was one of the first mechanics that crept out at me that I just did not like, because it was a decision to help someone or not, but I didn't know I was making that decision. I didn't know because I skipped the scene. So I went for yes, which I don't know if that made my life harder or easier, but I don't know. We'll never know. So we're now looking at the management of the game. So what happens at the beginning of every shift? You get your shift A and shift B. People will phone in sick to basically say their cat's got food poisoning, or their auntie's died, or it's too sunny today to come in. And you've just got to decide if you're going to let them have the time off or not. Very, very small part of the game. It's kind of just like a little micromanagement. You have cops with drink problems. You have cops with drug problems, and these will keep phoning in sick constantly. Once they phone in sick constantly, you can sack them. So, if they're not performing right, you can get rid of them and manage that side of things, which I thought was quite a nice little feature. I quite enjoyed that sort of thing. So how does the game play, and so what do you do on it? Basically, it's responding to calls using your resources. So a call will come in and go, right, Jeff's getting attacked at the local supermarket. Who are you going to send down? And you click and go, right, I'm going to send so-and-so and so-and-so. There'll be a certain amount of police you can send, and if it's bad, you can even send the SWAT team as well. So you will get calls as in armed robberies and shootouts and stuff, which you will have to send SWAT and a lot of officers. So some calls you might get a day where literally the only calls are coming in a couple of robberies, a couple of burglaries. Nothing that's going to test your force. So, you'll just be sitting there like, well, there's not much happening here. Next day, you might have SWAT out twice. You might have all your cops on one job. And that's when the management comes in, because you've got to kind of decide how many cops you're going to send out to a certain job. Because the last thing you want is to not be able to go to a job, because that's bad. That's pretty bad if you can't go to a job. So that's what you've got to decide. While you're managing your officers as well, you're also hitting targets for the mafia. So the mafia will say, like, ignore this job that's coming up, or I want an officer here just to help protect me. You'll also get City Hall coming across and asking you to do stuff. What they ask you is pretty... the first thing they ask you is to fire all black cops, because there's a racist movement going on. I didn't. I chose to ignore that. Whereas that got me into trouble with City Hall, because I chose to ignore the fire all black cops thing. But that's what sort of things are tackled. So one was hire loads of women cops. which was obviously a positive one. There was one where there was an Asian businessman coming, so they wanted all the Asian cops to be on a certain shift. So when he turned up, he thought we were full of Asian cops. People will come towards you, so they'll be like, there's a guy who owns a music shop, and he'll ask for someone to go and help him out with his wife's issue. And also there was a guy who gave me loads of money and 4 extra cops for taking his son on board, who was a complete lazabout. And he was like a 5-star rating. Every cop has like a competency star rating sort of thing that goes up between 10 and 5 per successful job. And it'll go down 10 or 5 if the job's going badly. And if a cop's at around about the 150 mark, that means they're competent and can go to most jobs. This guy that I got given by this rich guy was a 5. So basically he was just rubbish. But he said I was never allowed to sack him or get rid of him or anything like that. So yeah, I had to kind of use him on that. So there is other things come into play as you're doing it. So you've got your normal jobs, and then in the background what you'll see here is these are investigations by your detectives. So there'll be things like robberies, art thefts, and what you got to do is piece together the crime using frames that your detectives gives you. So they'll basically give you a frame of an image, and you've got to have a look and go, right, okay, well, this is the sequence of events. If you get a sequence of events right, you can then go and arrest the perpetrator. I'm doing one at the moment though where it makes no sense what's happening, and it gave me two ways of the event going. So it was basically, did the man outside who was a cyclist do the crime, or was it a security guard inside that did the crime? And it gave me both, and I had to read the witness statements and have a look to see who it was and piece it together. So it does get more complicated as you go on. You could have 2 detectives on it. You could have your whole detective force on it. You get to choose how many people you want on it. And even though it's never explained, I presume the more people you put on it, the quicker it'll get resolved. But as I said, I can't clarify that because I always just shove everyone on it generally because I've only got one at a time. There's also gangs in the city as well, and you can bring them using investigations as well. So you might have just seen before there was a bit of gang warfare going on, and I was bringing one of them gangs down via me detectives really. So you have got them two dynamics going on. So you might have normal jobs to go to. You got a certain amount of time to respond to a job. So things like a very basic job, you might get 40 seconds to respond. Something really urgent like an armed robbery, you might get 10 seconds. So it's up to you when you click on them. If you don't do them, the offender escapes and it starts looking bad on you. So it's best to go to as many as possible. There's traveling time for the officers in between the jobs. So you'll see now on screen the 2 officers, the little bar creeping up, and that means they're on the way at the job. When it's creeping down, it means they're coming back from a job. So you can see this job here, hostage situation. It's asking for 4 cops to turn up. I only have 4 cops to send. So then you've got to decide if you maybe sending 4 of them, or you're going to send 3 of them, or 2 of them, or you're going to send SWAT if you can, which would be in the support box. And you've got to send, you can see there, I sent everyone I possibly could to that job, which meant if another job came in, I couldn't respond. I was then screwed at that point. So this will pop up every so often to say basically that it's a little bit more complex. So you've got to decide what to do with that job. So in this case, how to stop the speeding car. You're going to pull in front of it or whatever. And you can see there it was a successful job. So you get to make them decisions. Wrong calls do get officers killed, which is a bad thing. However, you're going, that's a bad thing. If you've got a rubbish cop and you can't fire him, this game allows you to send them to a job and get them killed. You can also hire the mafia to kill your cops as well. So if you've got a cop you really don't like or need to get rid of via City Hall, you can do. And that's a pretty dark side of policing that is very brave to put in this game. And this game does tackle a lot of issues, i.e. racism. It tackles things like sexual assault, rape, bombs, terrorism, and there's a lot of serious matters in the game. However, the context is a little bit wrong sometimes. So sometimes it might be a job that you're like, "Ooh, that's quite serious," but the next job, or you get there and you have to throw a plastic blow-up doll at them to resolve the situation. It's kind of like the tone is a little bit off sometimes. Sometimes it's too serious, sometimes it's not enough serious, and that was probably one of the downfalls of the game. Another bit of a negative to do with the jobs as well. They kind of just round up with going, offender caught, officers unharmed, civilians unharmed, everyone's happy. But it doesn't tell you how it was resolved. I would like to see a little bit more story. Like, oh yeah, she did this because of this, or she done this because of this, or what we've had to do is lock them up, or we've decided that one was resolved via just having a word with them. And there's nothing like that. It's just a kind of case, you go to the job, it's either successful or not successful. And again, you can use non-successful jobs to basically get rid of your cops as well. So you can send a cop who's not trained to a job and they'll fail, and then you can get rid of them afterwards. So that's the management side of things. That's what you're doing on a day-to-day basis. And I would say after 10 episodes, it was running a little bit old now. I didn't feel like what I was doing was really helping. And I didn't feel like I had full control over it, if you know what I mean. It felt almost like it was just a graphic novel. And I was just kind of there to help out, so to say. So I would say it's not as management as it may seem. It is more, for me, just a visual, like a visual novel side of things. And yeah, there's some big issues, but there's also some half-hearted, like decisions as well. The game is 180 days long. I've been playing for around about 7, 8, 9, 10 hours, and I'm on day 22. 160 more days to go. And at the pace of the game, that is painfully slow. I don't see where they can come up with new ideas to keep me interested for that long. I don't think they can, which is why it stopped at that. So what do I think overall? It's an interesting one. I reckon overall it's a pretty good game. It's enjoyable up to a point, but then I did kind of get bored to it. I like the art style. I like, not the visual style, not the comic style. I don't like that bit at all. I just like the visual look of the game. I like the way it kind of has that tone about it. You choose music before each level, and you've got like jazz records playing in the background. I would like to see a little bit more though. I would like to see maybe when a patrol car pulls up, I'd like maybe see a little bit of a cutscene. I would like to maybe be able to zoom in on the map and see what's happening and stuff, because you can't just send the cops there and it's like, nah, they've done it. And that's it, done. I would love to see a little bit more around that as well. The jobs are very varied. I've never seen a repeated job yet, which I think is fantastic. The writers have done such a good job at that. I will give them credit for that. And yes, I've enjoyed my time with it. There's no denying that. Indie developers, seem to be putting a lot of effort into it, which I think is a very, very good thing. And with the different mechanics, I think the mechanics need to be a little bit more. There needs to be a little bit more feedback. I would like to see it being taken a little bit more seriously as well. I would like, if they are going to cover topics such as terrorism, that sort of thing, I want that to be taken a bit more seriously. And also, there was a couple of times I lost cops on clicking just an option which didn't seem like I had many more options, to be fair. I just kind of clicked what I would have thought the police would do, and I lost cops, and there's no feedback on that sort of thing either. It's just like, oh, they're dead, whatever, and that's it. So yeah, I've done my time. I'm not sure I'll be playing anymore. If I do, I might put up the odd video if I get into it. But for me, that's the end of it. I got 5 or 6 good hours out of it, and I enjoyed my time with it. And for £13-14, it's up to you if you're going to take the risk or not. That's my view. It's a good game. I am kind of enjoying it. And overall, I would give it a 7 out of 10. A very solid 7 out of 10, because I did enjoy my time with it. But never mind. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed the video, and I'll see you all later. Goodbye.